This is Libertad Antique, a small impoverished town in Panay Island in the Visayas. Located at the northernmost tip of the province of Antique, the municipality has approximately 8,400 hectares of mountainous land area. Libertad's townfolk subsist on fishing, mat weaving, as well as upland and lowland farming. With its mountainous terrain, the town has very narrow rice fields. Because of this, the people have to resort to upland rice planting. This kind of farming makes use of the kaingin, or slash and burn farming practice in the forest. The rich land and sea have traditionally been the source of livelihood. But over the years, these abundant resources have deteriorated. The lush green forest of Libertad began to be denuded due to many years of logging and kaingin farming. As far back as the 1940s, the townfolk started to practice kaingin farming for their survival during the war. This has caused serious upland erosion and siltation of the waters. In the 1980s, there emerged pioneering efforts to reverse the ravage of these forest resources. Today, this initiative has started, the Greening of Libertad.
The trees near the rivers were cut and burned. Caingeros destroyed the trees on the mountains, so we had to plant trees or be left with none.
Ang ating lugar, basi kung mahimo nga deserto sa urihe.
Gawa ng yung tao ay aware na sila sa
People are aware of the events here and in the world.
mga nangyayari dito.
Kaingin farming and logging angers nature. Before, Caingeros cut and burned trees, but now they are starting to plant trees again, bit by bit. Perhaps in 5 to 10 years, there will be many trees here.
Gawa ng pinuputo nila yung mga kahoy, ay unti-unti na silang tumatanim ngayon. At in 5 years o 10 years siguro, baka nakikita ko na marami ng mga puno na mabubuhay dito.
May mga tanim na kaming puno ng nyog, mahogani, jimilina at sa kasari-saring mga prutas.
We planted coconut, mahogany, and fruit trees.
Kami talaga.
We have our nurseries, soil, and water impounding and control lines. We hope these bring back the soil's fertility. Since the land is barren, we now plant trees instead of rice and corn. Trees protect us from flood waters.
Na kung saan yun inaasahan namin na makapagbibigay ng fertility sa lupa na kung saan nawalan na sila ng taba dahil nagkalbo na sila.
Among the prime movers of the regreening of Libertad is Florencio Tandug. In 1979, Flor Tandug pioneered in regreening about 15 hectares of sloping, eroded land.
Maan mo, driver ako sa Department of Agriculture.
I was a driver of the Department of Agriculture. While I drove around with my director from San Jose to Iloilo, I noticed that, even then, the mountains were already bare.
Sa opisina namin sa may Sulusi, dyan sa may plaza, sa may probinsya.
The plaza of San Jose is full of mahogany trees. I was the only one who collected its seeds. These I put in my nursery. This was how I started. Later, I began to plant mahogany seedlings on a barren mountain.
A model for the community, inspiring his townmates to follow his initiatives. Flor planted the once idle uplands with mahogany, coffee, cacao, cashew, and other trees. Flor now has an extensive nursery which boasts of some 10,000 mahogany seedlings among others.
People before did not care to plant trees. The forestry office gave away free seedlings from their nursery, but the people never planted them. We started this tree planting group with 2 to 3 people. They were Noel Bicino, Tasio, and Timoy Natundan. We were able to interest other people in tree planting. We soon realized that our efforts would be more systematic if we had some sort of association. So, we decided to organize this group into the Libertad Planters Association.
In 1988, Flor Tandug helped organize the Libertad Planters Association. The group has since developed a communal garden with 30,000 seedlings. This is in addition to the backyard nurseries owned by the group's members.
In developing countries, the resources of government are limited, very limited in fact, such that they are not really able to provide sufficient extension work for farmers in the country. So that a strategy which uses the Libertad experience, where farmers are key farmer leaders, farmer influentials are identified in the communities and then trained in the technology, and after they're trained in the technology, they now are asked to do the extension work for other farmers in their community is highly effective. The reason for this is that these farmers enjoy very high credibility among their fellow farmers.
The basis for the
Members of the Planters Association of Libertad became interested in planting trees because of Mr. Tandog's successful model farm. If you go to Sitio Lacadon of Barangay Cabok, you can see how the project is well prepared and developed. People say that Mr. Tandog should not have shared his experiences in planting trees. If he did not share his experiences in tree planting, he would just plant trees on his own, making himself a secret millionaire.
Hasta subong. Karon taong una, mag-organize naman mga 35 kami palang membro.
Because most of us believe in the saying, to see is to believe, many people were convinced about what we were doing. From then on, our membership increased from an initial number of 35 members.
Amo na nga ang sistema nga karadura. Kay duro mga organisasyon sa una nga nanonabla.
We have many organizations here, but they do not last long. I myself got discouraged, but we resolved to organize. We had meetings. I researched on how to form an organization. Other members were convinced.
Una-una gid nga dapat natin himuon.
Farm visits by members of the association showed how this tree planting project started. The farm visits are productive. We spoke to Mang Flor and Mr. Tindan and found the need to plant in the forest. We lacked a system, so Mang Flor invited us to his plantation.
Naging membro ako kang kadyala ako naging membro kang 1991.
I became a member in 1991. Mr. Tandog convinced me to plant in my farm, and I did. He also insisted I visit his farm. The mahogany was huge. He also had coffee and cacao.
Nagtanim ako. Kaurihi, ginhagad na akong magtusa ng uma. Na tanawabi ako ng uma to. Pagtanaw na ko ng uma nga to. Abadlag ng mga mogani, ng mga kakao.
In the western part of the country where there is long dry season and the people there is no more forest, the species that are very suitable is what they call Acacia auricoliformis. In this eastern portion of the Philippines, you can plant hard species like mulabe, even mahogany, buggrass, and other hardwood species in the Philippines. Antique, which is the same as any part in the Western Philippines, you can plant auriculiformis at the start because the auriculiformis will neutralize or enrich the soil, then plant mahogany, nara, mulabe, and other valuable species.
Kaga sa amon yung mga kahito.
We had to decide what trees to plant. We chose mahogany because of the cost. We started with a communal nursery with 36 members planting. We started with coffee, mahogany, ipil-ipil, and nara. When the seedlings grew a year old, we distributed these to the members. Now they have started their own tree planting activities.
Pares ng mahogany, dati hindi yan pinapansin dito, pero nung makita nila na madali pa lang lumaki dito sa lugar.
People before did not think of growing mahogany, but it is easy to grow. It can be sold at a high price 10 to 20 years after planting. The high price that mahogany fetches got people to pay attention. They hear of how planters can sell a tree at 2,000 to 4,000 pesos.
Binibinta na daw, binibili na sa kanila ng mga 2,000, mga 4.
Kundi nagkakuan bala kami, nagka-idea nga kinanglan gali kita magatanom.
So we had the idea to plant mahogany. It's easy to care for. Once you plant it, you check on it only once in a while. If our parents had planted mahogany before, even with just 100 trees, you can just imagine how much you can get from those trees now, over 200,000 pesos.
Mahogany, or its scientific name, Suetenia macrophylla, is very good for reforestation in the Philippines. It grows throughout the Philippines, but suitable mostly in areas where there is long dry season as well as dry season.
Mga membro kang Libertad Planters Association nagharalin sa mga nasari-sari man nga barangay.
The association members come from different barangays. Some come from the nearby town of Sebaste. One member is active in Pocio Point. People from barangays Pocio, Lindiro, Tinigbas, and Poblacion Codyong have joined as members. Now, they can see how our organization is doing. Membership has increased. We now have 105 members and many still wish to join.
Kasi naisipan namin magmembro sa Libertad Planters Association.
We decided to become a member of the association because it has the same objective as our group. Our goal is to plant trees to replace those that have been cut before. We coordinate with the association in the contour farming system. The sloping agricultural land technology, or SALT, is what we use to conserve water. We retain the water in the canal down there. If all of us work in this program, we can prevent land erosion.
Ito yung tinatawag na sloping agricultural land technology.
The sloping agricultural land technologies preserves the land. Farmers used to simply till the soil without use of contour or hedgerows. They did not realize that the soil was losing its fertility in the process.
Talagang inaararo lang nila na walang mga ganyan, mga harang na mga contour, mga hedgerow.
SALT, the actual meaning is sloping land agricultural technology. It is very nice to practice this in areas which are moderate slope or slope by what they call the contour planting. And it depends upon the slope. A hedge growing is performed wherein it follows the contour. In between the hedge grow, you can plant agricultural crops, trees, and other cash crops.
It is very suitable, especially in the province of Antique.
Florencio Tandug, together with his townmates Timoteo Tindan and Joseph Plaquia, comprised the trio who started the enthusiasm for tree planting in Libertad. What the tree planters needed next was the know-how of technology. Jun Pichon provided this, a farm management technician from the Evelio V. Javier Upland Development Project. He provided this much-needed farming technology.
Ang isang plano namin tutulungan yung mga tao sa bundok para
We help the upland farmers improve on farming methods which are inherent in their cultural practices. This is what we try to develop. We want them to decide what to plant, when to farm. We are just here to assist them.
Kung mayroon silang mga cultural na practice, yun na lang ang i-develop namin.
Kang urihe pagid nga
Once, during a meeting, we said that if we focused on trees, it could take years before we could benefit from it. So, we adopted the salt. We could convert the hills into farms to plant short-term crops.
Ang ginagawa po namin dito, nagpapalapad kami ng aming nursery po.
Many of us plant through this Dagyao system to expand our nursery. Dagyao means voluntary and communal work where all members help out. Instead of hiring people to work our farm, we help each other out in their farm.
Magtatrabaho kami sa komunal, lahat ng mga membro nagtutulong-tulong dyan.
ang Dagyao nga dya, amon ta na yung naging kasukanan.
The Dagyao system is our answer for farm work that needs to be done fast. The Dagyao also solves our need for more manpower. Farming depends on the seasons. We take advantage of the rainy season for planting seeds. If there are plenty of workers, the job can be done quickly.
At ang Dagyao na tinatawag, yan ay...
The Dagyao system involves all members. All members work without pay in the spirit of cooperation or in the bayanihan spirit. We also have the individual Dagyao called the hilo-hilo or weekly farm work.
Individual na Dagyao. Pero tinatawag yan na hilo-hilo.
Ang ginatawag na hilo kung sa Tagalog, bayanihan system dya.
The hilo system is called bayanihan in Tagalog. We adopted this system here in Libertad because it makes tilling our lands easier. It makes tree planting on the mountains easier.
In organizing, there is strength. With the townspeople's united efforts, the Libertad Planters Association grew strong. The association continues to grow as a formidable group. Their aim is not only toward the greening of Libertad, but also to forge unity and cooperation for the benefit of each and every member.
Pero kung mayroong mga sa culture na kanilang pagtanim ay medyo salihis sa...
If the farmers practice methods which are environmentally destructive, we try to teach them to change their ways. But this doesn't mean we will totally alter their cultural traditions. From our past experiences, we learned to discard certain new technologies which were inappropriate to people's practices. Now, we see to it that we only develop what is inherent in their traditions.
The idea of the bayanihan spirit or the spirit of small groups pooling the resources together like labor, that is a spirit which has been always part of our tradition and culture. When the Spaniards came in the 15th century or thereabouts, the Spaniards noted that the Filipino farmers at that time were in fact already practicing group labor. That has been known and has come to be known as bayanihan or pintakasi or hunglos, in various parts of the country. The bayanihan spirit, unfortunately, is something which government agencies have not recognized for quite some time and have not, in fact, used in development work. An example of that is a situation where government workers would immediately, upon reaching a community, would immediately organize a formal organization and have this registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission and say that that group has been organized. Generally, these kinds of organizations do not last very long. In my experience, these organizations last for only as long as the extension workers are there, but as soon as they leave, the group also disintegrate. Now, using the small group or bayanihan spirit is a system where you in fact identify these existing groups in the community. They're always there.
The spirit of unity and cooperation is a deeply rooted tradition among the townsfolk of Libertad. This spirit of helping one another is a requirement for membership to the association. How does one become a member? The association secretary, Adalberto Jara, explains.
Para siya maging membro at Libertad Planters Association,
First, we find out if there is much to be planted. As long as they have land, no matter how small or big, they are qualified to plant. Secondly, they will have to follow the rules of the Libertad Planters Association. These rules include the Dagyao and the Hilo systems. The association does not have much money. This is why we practice the Dagyao and Hilo systems.
Ginapaagi lang naman niya sa hilo-hilo kag Dagyao.
Amid meager resources and limited technical knowledge are various problems that saddle the organization in its huge task to regreen the hometown.
Isang problema dito ay merong mga ilan-ilan na pumapasok.
The buyers who come into Libertad to buy logs are a problem. As it is, only in the northern areas such as Pandan and Libertad do they have an abundant supply of water in the mountains. The Don Bandasa shore is almost barren, so the buyers tend to come here for their logging needs. There are a few people who would sell trees to the loggers.
Kugon sa katalab ang tumutubo. So ang tendency ng mga tao doon sa shore ay dito sila bumibili ng mga kahoy.
Ang una-una naman nakita nga problema kang asosasyon.
Our problem is that we don't have enough money or food for the family. The members work 3 days to earn their daily needs. The remaining days of the week, they spend to work on their farms. This shows that farm work is not one whole week.
Sa ibang tao, bali 3 ka adlaw o kun 4, ang ibang adlaw nga bilin kultibar manana sa anang kaugulingan.
Farmers also need to be provided tools, farm inputs, seeds, seedlings, and their daily needs. These can be given to them only at the start of planting. Later, when they have their own farm produce, they can provide for the expenses of their family's needs.
Isa na dyan ang mga daily needs kang sangka membro, labi nagigkon may mga pamilya, pagkabataan.
Ang halos lang na kabuhay ng tao dito ay yung sa yung sila ng kaingin, ganyan.
Most people here rely on kaingin farming. Because of this farming method, the soil has lost its fertility. This kaingin farming does not protect the land from soil erosion. This has caused people to migrate to Negros, Mindanao, and nearby towns to earn a living.
Negros, Mindoro, at kalapit na bayan.
When our husbands are not around, we've matched to earn extra money. The money we earn is spent for the needs of our children in school. My husband does farm work in Mindoro to earn a living. Whenever he is home, we present to him our farming projects, such as planting peanuts, cassava, kamote, corn, and others.
Amuran nga ginapsintar namon nga may mga project mo kami nga ginatanom.
Yung tao, yung talagang sanay na sila dito sa trabaho ng paggawa ng banig.
People here just weave mats. They are used to this work.
Kulang ang trabaho nila.
Women hardly work on the farm. People here are in a difficult economic situation. They look for other means of income besides farming.
Ang sa karon,
if we only plant trees, it would be years before we could benefit from these. So it would be better if we also plant those crops which we could harvest in a shorter period of time. We adopted the farming system called SALT. With this system, we could convert the hills into farms. Plants planted here could be harvested in a shorter time period. These are called short-term crops. We also observed that people seem disinterested in only planting trees. They would like to plant other crops too. Because of our limited land area here in Libertad, we decided to make use of the hillsides and convert them into farms. Since it would be difficult to convert steep hillsides into farmlands, we had to decide whether this area would be planted with trees or with productive, short-term crops such as rice, kamote, beans, or peanuts.
Ang mabuligrad kang gobyerno sa amin nga mga mangunguma.
Most of us live far away from our farms. We need money to fix the roads here. Good roads are needed so that transportation will be easier to come by. This is where the government can help us.
Binhi gid ang importante.
Seeds are very important. So is technical assistance from the government for teaching and training the members about things like management and discipline. Technical assistance is needed in an organization. For instance, we need to know how to facilitate paperwork, how to register with the Securities and Exchange Commission, how to accredit cooperatives, how to maintain and prepare papers and documents. There is a need to present some papers in order for action to be taken.
May knowledge o may kinaalam tana para sa anang kaugalingan sa pagtanom.
Totoo pong may tulong din sa amin ang opisina ng Department of Agriculture.
It is true we received help from the Department of Agriculture as well as from the Evelio B. Javier Land Development. But through our own hard work and efforts, we started our nursery. We know it's best to rely on ourselves.
The tree planters try to surmount the odds with their principle of self-help. But a most serious problem is land security. The tree planters fear the entry of persons who will lay claim to the land they tilled for many years.
Yung aming establishment dito, hindi mapasa amin.
We cannot own the establishment here because there are certain interested sectors claiming this land. We are apprehensive about this. Nevertheless, we continue to work because we have nothing else to turn to but this land. This land is the people's means of livelihood. It has always been this way for past generations and will always be this way until the present.
The situation in Libertad Antique is a situation where you have a farmer who on his own and using his own resources started planting trees on government land. Now, after a few years, his initial plantations proved to be successful, and he has now been using it to convince other farmers to go into the wide-scale planting of trees. You have here a situation where a farmer has taken on the role of an extension agent and is now actively promoting a technology. In developing countries, this is the best model for extension. The Antique experience stands out as the exact model of how development should in fact be done in the rural areas. Getting the farmers to learn the technology and getting the farmers to themselves train other farmers. That is the best, that is the cheapest way of spreading out technologies such as planting of trees.
Parang nakikita ko na sa sunod na mga taon ay
As I see it,
marami
the
na
future will
makakaaway
look
ng
upon trees growing abundantly on the mountains. People here are aware of nature's ways. They have seen nature's revenge. They are aware that when they cut down trees, they feel the effects of a warmer climate. They realize the need to replace cut trees so that they can once again enjoy the better climate conditions.
ay ang epekto ay bumabalik sa kanila.
Mas importante gid para nga mabalaan na sa lugar.
It is important that others may know about our experiences here in Libertad. The Libertad Planters Association could be a model. It can give the knowledge and the inspiration for regreening the land.
The people of Libertad Antique have made their move. Their pioneering effort is something that should be spread and heralded throughout the ravaged country, throughout the ravaged world. The greening of Libertad, however a small patch of earth it may be, is one important step in the journey of regreening this one big planet.
Pagka